Hey everybody, this is E. Marcel Pertu. Welcome to another edition of the Sports Inquirer Show. We're recording this on the first few days, or within the first few days of December. Man, I was just talking to somebody a few days ago, or really this morning, and we had to talk about Thanksgiving and everything that's been going on. It seems like December, it's been the longest yet the quickest year that I've ever experienced. It's been the longest year for everything that we're going through as far as the pandemic and everything like that. Hopefully, all of you that are listening, things are going well with you and your friends and family and all in connection with that. And hope you're making it through like we all are. But the way that the year has been going also is that with the way that we've been operating, I know myself personally, trying to quarantine and keep social distancing, the days just seem to be the same. Every day I go to work, I go home, I go to the gym, I go to the store, and that's really it. And it's long and tedious, but also every day's the same. You look up at the calendar, and all of a sudden it's December, and you're not even acknowledging it or even thinking about it. But so that's why it feels like the longest yet the shortest year that I can remember. Hopefully, all of you had a very good Thanksgiving. I stayed home in Georgia, went to my mother's house, and I had some food there and set up a Zoom call, which was very helpful. I do Zooms all the time. If you're listening or to the podcast right now, you know that I do a lot of interviews through Zoom, and I figured if I could do it for my business and for the Inquirer, I should be able to do it for my mama. And that's what I did. So I set up a call with her and our aunts and uncles, her brothers and sisters, my aunts and uncles, and my brother as well. So we were all over the state of Georgia and also in Florida, and it went really well. And he told some good stories and had some companionship or fellowship while we could not be in the same room. But I really just stayed home. I watched some football, and we'll get to the football in a moment. It was a very uninspired football that I saw during the Thursday on Thanksgiving. A little bit better yesterday, a little bit better on Sunday, and last night as well, Monday Night Football with Seattle and Philly. And really outside of that, I was able to also work my first Kennesaw State basketball game. And that was very good to see some familiar faces that I've not seen or talked to in months. As I mentioned, everything that's going on with the pandemic, you've been keeping distance and not seeing folks. So it was good to see some good faces there and actually get a basketball game in. And Kennesaw State was able to play Toccoa Falls and do that activity. I'm concerned about the college basketball season, not because of the fault of the players or the coaches, but we've seen so many games already canceled and rescheduled. College football, we've seen that impact of the pandemic and all the rescheduling in the NFL. I mean, Baltimore and Pittsburgh, right now, as we're recording this, they're supposed to be playing tomorrow night on Wednesday or afternoon, but that could be moved at any moment. But at least with football, it's once a week. You're only traveling that one time to that location to play the game, and then you can go home. Basketball is a lot more games, a lot more traveling, which adds a lot more elements of the pandemic spreading among your team or to others and things like that. And it's a longer season as well. But hopefully things will work out. But we got that game in for Kennesaw State, so that was good to take care of all of that. And we'll get right to the show. But as always, you want to follow everything that we're doing, head to the mothership, to sportsinquirer.net, premier site for news and notes in the world of sports. You can also head to our social media platforms, starting with Facebook, with two pages on there, the Sports Inquirer and Sports Inquirer, all one word. Search for us on Twitter and Instagram under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. You do a search on there. You're able to check out everything that we're doing and get all of our latest updates whenever we do an interview, a post, anything along those lines. Just go to those sites and like us, support us, and follow us, and you'll get a direct link to all that we are doing. And then also go to our other platforms, our YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and iTunes. Just search The Sports Inquirer. You look those up, and you'll be able to see everything that we are doing. As I mentioned, I'll start with the football and our Gridiron Blitz as we look through the past week of NFL action. I said there was no buzz for Thanksgiving Day, and I think part of it has to do with the matchups. And I think a lot of us, this has been a very unique holiday season, and Thanksgiving was very weird. Not as many family gatherings as we normally would have had under normal circumstances. So you're not going to be able to see your family, gather around the TV, and watch the Lions lose again in a contest. But I honestly saw maybe 4 or 5 plays of Houston and Detroit. I mean, the Detroit Lions. Everyone talks about how bad the Jets are and how they've been over the past few years. You'll hear some talk about maybe the Jaguars have had a rough run of things. Buffalo until the past few years. I contend that the Lions and then the Browns as well. Browns finally got a win, or they beat Jacksonville, so they're not going to have a losing record for the first time in over 10 years, or close to 10 years, maybe even more than that. So that's terrible football. But the Detroit Lions, they're flying under the radar. I don't know if it's because of their location. Maybe they are in the bigger markets of football markets or attention of Green Bay and Chicago. They sit behind them, but the Lions have been an inept franchise for decades and never made the Super Bowl. They haven't even made an appearance. I think they've been in only since Super Bowl era. I think they've only been in two, maybe even one NFC Championship game. They're just a bad team, and we see them every year. Look, we remember Barry Sanders, one of the all-time greats at running back, and he was a tremendous guy to watch. Now, at least that was a highlight of Thanksgiving. It's like, if anything, we're going to see Barry Sanders, one of the best to ever do it, perform and do his thing. So that was cool. But now that he's been long gone, I have to see Matthew Stafford lose all these games. And you ultimately saw, well, after that loss to Houston, Matt Patricia got fired and Quinn, the general manager, got fired as well. It's overdue. It's just a franchise and were so quick to get rid of Jim Caldwell, who brought them winning records and got them some playoff appearances, to bring in Matt Patricia, who did not fit in from the very beginning. With that, I knew he was an assistant with the New England Patriots, and everyone thinks that if you get someone from the Bill Belichick tree, you're going to get Bill Belichick. No, not so much. He just did not fit in from the very beginning. That was a bad fit, a bad situation. Now, the Lions are never going to be taken away from Thanksgiving. Them and the Cowboys, those are going to be the games. And now that the NFL is trying to get a third game in, that was originally supposed to be the Ravens and the Steelers, you have teams that can rotate in that third spot. So at least you have, and that's usually the best game of the day, unless Dallas is on a very good run. I wish they're not this year. But you just see Detroit every single year, and I sit there every year and like, why am I watching the Lions? So this year, I like Deshaun Watson. He's a talented quarterback for the Texans and all that stuff. But I was like, I can't do it. So I hardly watched that game. And by the way, I was also setting up the Zoom calls and driving around, delivering food to the family. I was a chauffeur for the day as far as that goes, because that was the way they did it. People made food at different places around our family's within about a 10-mile radius of each other. So everyone cooked, and I had to drop it off to different people. And I was happy to do that if I could avoid watching the Lions. So I was cool with that. But just a lack of buzz in that game, and in Dallas and Washington. Look, I know Alex Smith is a very good story, and the Washington football team is a solid squad. The defense, they play hard. Offensively, Smith is efficient. He's not going to turn the ball over. They can move the ball down the field a little bit. But with Dak Prescott being out for the Cowboys, and they're just not the same. And all the weapons that they have on offense, I know you have Ezekiel Elliott. He looks like a shell of his former self. The Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, they're not producing at the way they should be at receiver. I mean, Andy Dalton's not getting the ball where they should be. The defense, you have all those high-priced guys, Jalen Smith, Lawrence, guys that have been paid and compensated in a major way, and that defense is below average. So I know that you look at Dak Prescott and I'm not going to the top 10 or top 15. He's above average quarterback. And when you lose him for the year like they have, that's really tough to deal with. But he doesn't play defense. And that's where you see the Cowboys. They just do not show up in any way against Washington, who rolled them in that contest. I don't know who's going to win that division. The Giants won as well. Daniel Jones might be out a few weeks now with a leg injury. We saw Philadelphia lose pretty handily to the Seahawks. I know in the end it was a one-possession contest, but that division is not very good. I have to say Washington is the front runner in that division in the NFC East, and I think 6 wins may be the mark that gets you into the playoffs in that division, which is just a shameful statement to make. When you have a team like the Browns, who have 8 wins on the season already and are fighting for their playoff lives, while a 6-win team in the NFC East, maybe 7 if we're being generous, is going to be in the playoffs. It's just a very odd setup and situation going on there. Just some other thoughts from the weekend of the NFL. A lot of comebacks. That's been a theme throughout the season. We've highlighted. The Vikings came back from an 11-point deficit to defeat Carolina. New England was down by 10 points to defeat Arizona on Sunday. That's been 35 times this season that a team has been down 10 or more points and come back and won the game. That's the most through Week 12 in NFL history. As I've said before, conditioning is not the same with a lot of these guys. Some of it's due to the offseason not being seen. You're saying, well, they've been playing for 3 months now. It's still not the same. I think the pandemic and the different practice policies that they have allows guys not to be in their peak condition when they're playing. And I think that there's also parity. I think you look at the best teams in the NFL, whether it's on the NFC side, Green Bay and New Orleans, and the AFC, obviously Pittsburgh's undefeated, and Kansas City only has 1 loss, the defending Super Bowl champs. You can point at holes in every single one of those teams. Those are the top teams, let alone teams in the middle or to the bottom half of the league. And that's where you mentioned Minnesota coming back against Carolina. Carolina is a average team. Arizona, same deal. Average team against New England, who are not, they're going to probably finish about 500 as well. You add all that up together, you have a lot of close games, and teams may jump out early and get into a rhythm, but they'll also allow other teams to come back. So you got to look at all of that stuff when you're looking at these contests. But as I mentioned, Kansas City's the best team in the NFL. Very impressive win, 27-24 over Tampa. And I would watch that contest from beginning to end. Obviously, it was the highlight. It was the 4 o'clock game, the late game in the East Coast for us here in Atlanta. And, I mean, Mahomes, we'll get to Tampa in a moment, but appreciate what you're seeing from Kansas City right now. Pat Mahomes, 462 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He has done that he has had at least 30 completions and 300 passing yards in 4 consecutive games. First guy in NFL history to have that mark. And you go through all the different landmark things that he's done. I'll put it this way. Dan Marino and Kurt Warner, he is starting to approach their records, and it's just an incredible effort by him. All these touchdowns, I think only 2 interceptions this year. You look at him, we've tried to put Russell Wilson in MVP run chase. We've tried to put even Kyler Murray maybe earlier on in the year and things like that. Aaron Rodgers, he's had a very good season as well. It's Pat Mahomes' show, and this is his era right now. And I guess seeing him on the field at the same time as Tom Brady really put that highlight in our perspective. But it's his era, it's his time right now, and he's rolling. And when you have an all-pro receiver in Tyreek Hill, who had 13 catches and 269 yards and 3 touchdowns on Sunday, really all in the first half. Those are all career highs, by the way. And you have Travis Kelce, who is a guy who's the first team all-pro tight end, and a decent offensive line, and Andy Reid's and Eric Bieniemy's play calling, and Sammy Watkins as a receiver as well. And let's forget, and not forget, Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell at running back. And Le'Veon Bell's starting to get a little bit more run right now. That offense you're going to have to score even to 27 points. That was really, I think they did slow it down and not really push it as hard as they should have or could have. But you're going to have to score 30 plus just to beat them every game. And not many teams can do that. Now, Oakland has found a way to make it very competitive against them by having a good pass rush, being able to face man-to-man, and use some good defensive scheming. But Tampa did not do that at all. They didn't have a good pass rush. They left their cornerbacks on one-on-one situations, and then Tyreek Hill just dominated that first half without safety help. And then when they made the adjustment to double on Tyreek Hill, that's when Travis Kelce got off and got some good receptions as well. But yeah, it's just a dominant performance by the Chiefs. And as far as Tampa goes, you're seeing a disconnect between Bruce Arians' offensive philosophy, the head coach, de facto the offensive coordinator. I think Byron Leftwich is technically the coordinator for offense, but it's Bruce Arians' offense. You have Arians, his approach, which is very vertical, a lot of long passes, and things along those lines. And then they have Tom Brady, who we've known for years, likes to pass the ball short, intermediate routes. He'll take advantage of a deep ball here and there. But we've seen what he does in New England, and we see what his skill level is now. And he's over 40 years old. He should be in an offense that caters more to him. And then they don't run the ball as well as they should with the Dav Jones, a solid running back there. Leonard Fournette, I don't know where he's at anymore. He's not. I don't think he's that premier running back that he used to be. But Jones is a solid running back. When they run the ball, you know, in their wins, they run the ball, play action, get Gronkowski involved in the seam, things like that. That's when their offense is at its best. But when he has to go back, or drop back Brady, throw it deep every 5-6 plays, that's not going to work. And that's where you're seeing a major disconnect between the Bucks, the offense, and how it's not working. And as I mentioned, the defense, they have talent over there. They have Shaq Barrett, led the league in sacks last year. They have Sue in defensive tackle. You have Pierre Paul. So they have a good front defensive line, but their back end is suspect. And that's where they run into a lot of problems. I think Tampa's still going to be in the playoffs, just because of the extra spot. And they do have a good amount of wins so far this year. But if you're looking for them to make a run in the postseason, I don't think that's going to happen. Just other highlights from the weekend. Josh Allen for Buffalo, good 15th career game with a rushing and TD pass and the Bills' 27-17 win over the Chargers. You have to figure that they are now the team to beat in the AFC East. I know New England was able to get that comeback win over Arizona, but I think that we're seeing Buffalo really separate themselves. And I know Miami's right there as well, but I think overall we're going to see the Bills going to win that division in a pretty handily way. Another matchup that I saw a little bit of is New Orleans and Denver. And look, here's the deal. I've been seeing people praising the Broncos for trying to find a way to work around their quarterback situation. Bull crap. Here's my deal on that. If you didn't watch it, the Broncos were down. All their quarterbacks were unavailable due to COVID-related issues, so they had to use a practice squad wide receiver who played a little bit of quarterback in college. I'll give him that. But they pretty much ran a high school offense in the NFL. He only completed one pass, threw 2 interceptions, and the Saints were able to roll in a 31-3 victory. We'll get to Taysom Hill in a moment. But Denver should be ashamed of themselves. How do you have that type of situation where you do not have a quarterback on the roster for you? My whole thing has been, I don't care if you're any team, you have your 2 guys, your starter and your backup. Your third string guy needs to be pretty much in isolation for the entire week before a game, or really the entire season. Look, it's not fun. It's not a good thing. But how is it that those quarterbacks got the virus or got the coronavirus, and none of the other players did? Obviously, those guys were in a meeting room together, and they just did not follow the protocols. And I have no sympathy for them at all. They lost. If they lose the rest of their games, that's on them. Very disappointing. I did like what I saw from Taysom Hill, though, for New Orleans. Look, is he going to be the future at quarterback in New Orleans? We don't know. But he's doing well enough right now. Drew Brees gives him the best chance to win at this stage of the season and where the team is right now. But if Taysom Hill can go and get a few more wins, I'm not mad at that at all. Another guy I'm not mad at is Derrick Henry. Dominant night for the Titans in a 45-26 victory. 178 yards running, 3 touchdowns. Once again, we talk about guys who are putting up Hall of Fame numbers with Mahomes. I'm not saying that Henry is going to be a Hall of Famer, but you look at the things that he's done so far. 4th player in NFL history with 3 games with at least 175 rushing yards and 3 rushing TDs in his first 5 seasons. The only other guys are Jim Brown, Damian Tomlinson, and Adrian Peterson, all future Hall of Famers. So Henry, in his first 5 years in the league, has put together a pretty solid run so far. And that was a game they just bullied their way into that victory over Indianapolis. We saw what Indy did to Green Bay the week before and physically dominated the Packers in that contest. I know it went to overtime, but they were able to find a way to get the win. Tennessee's one of those teams where, are they Kansas City or Pittsburgh? Probably not. But the way that they play is very conducive to success in the postseason if they can find their way into it. Tannehill, another guy, we saw him in Miami turn the ball over so much and be inconsistent, but you put him in that offense where you limit his opportunities. And he's got some good receivers, though. Brown is tremendous, and Davis. And those two receivers are very good. And then we got Derrick Henry running the ball. That's a ball control offense that can do a lot of big things for them. So those are really my thoughts on the NFL. I mentioned the NFC East. There's just not much inspiration there. Carson Wentz is playing for the Eagles at this stage just because of the contract. That's the reality of it. I think if he was not due so much money, and the broadcast, they did a pretty good job. It was early in the broadcast. I didn't fall asleep yet. They showed the money that he's owed. If they decide to cut him after this season, they just want to say, we're done with them, we're going to move on, and put Jalen Hurts in there. He's $50+ million dead cap space next season, and I think $20+ million in dead cap space the year after that. So he's not going to go anywhere. And really, you got to figure a way. I don't know if they need to change a coach or they need to change the offense, but he's their quarterback. He's the one that they've signed. Physically, the talent's there. He's just not connecting right now. Maybe he's just not that guy. Maybe that MVP caliber run a few years ago before he hurt his knee and was out for the year, and then Nick Foles became the starter and the Eagles won the Super Bowl. Maybe that was his peak. But the way they made a commitment to him, you can't just cut ties with them at this stage. So we'll see what happens there overall. And Seattle, once again, you saw it when they can run the ball, and Carson was back for them last night. That was very big for the Seahawks in their backfield. And Metcalf had a big night as well as receiver. But when they can run the ball and have that balance, that makes things a lot easier for Russell Wilson, who, is a top 5 quarterback in the league and still might be in the MVP conversation. But anytime you can run the ball, helps every single quarterback. We talk about that with Brady. Same thing with Mahomes. I know he throws the ball so well and they get the ball to the receivers, but when that Chiefs offense is clicking at its peak, they have a solid offensive option at running back, whether it's Hilaire or now Le'Veon Bell. And that's the same thing with the Seahawks, when you can have a running attack with Carson, and Wilson runs the ball himself as well at quarterback. But you add all that together, you put yourself in a very good position. And I really don't have much comments to say about the Ravens and Steelers game that's supposed to take place tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you listen to our show. But I don't know if that game's going to take place. And I guess Lamar Jackson, he has COVID-19. We don't know what's going to happen with that, how he physically reacts to it. But we'll see what happens from there. We're going to transition over to the next portion of our show, which is a technical state of Georgia athletics. And we'll start with Georgia State football. Panthers got a very big win over Georgia Southern, their rival, this past Saturday, 30-24. Cornelius Brown had a career-high 372 passing yards and had the go-ahead TD late in the fourth quarter. He had a 1-yard quarterback sneak to give the Panthers the victory. So right now the Panthers have a record of 5-4, finished 4-4 in the Sun Belt. So as of now, they have a winning record for the second consecutive year. I don't know if they're going to play another game or if they're going to play a bowl game. We'll see what happens with that, where it's a very fluid situation. But a very big win for the Panthers to beat Georgia Southern. That's their big rival, and also to get that 5th win of the season. Sam Pinkney, another big night for the sophomore wideout, had a career-high 10 catches for 126 yards. And Cornelius McCoy also had 100-plus receiving yards at 111. And he had a big 45-yard TD catch in the second quarter. So that was a very big night for the Panthers. Oh, can't forget Terrence Dixon, he also had 77 receiving yards. So Brown did a very good job distributing the ball to a lot of his receivers. Georgia State was down 24-13 in the fourth quarter, and the comeback started with a Dustin Coates 4-yard TD run, making the score 24-19 in the fourth quarter. And the Eagles were able to get the ball into field goal position, but Alex Rayner missed the 48-yard kick. And the Panthers also were able to take advantage of that possession and good field position. And Brown had that 1-yard TD run, as I mentioned, to give them the lead in the two-point conversion pass to Sam Pinkney, made the Panthers up 27-24. And that's when Josh Tomlin, who was the backup quarterback for the Eagles, Weems was hurt and was dealing with injuries throughout the contest. But Tomlin was sacked by Jordan Stratham, and it was recovered by Blake Carroll. And Carroll had a very big night for the Panthers as well, career high 14 tackles. And in the end, the Panthers were able to drive the ball down the field, and Noah Ruiz was able to kick a 35-yard field goal and make the score 30-24. And on the Panthers were able to intercept the ball. Quavion White had the interception for Georgia State on the Eagles' final possession, and that what led to the victory. So that was the win for the Panthers, and we were able to get the audio of Shawn Elliott, head coach of Georgia State, on the win.
It happens here in the next few hours. What a way to cap off a regular season. I mean, anytime you play your rival and win as a team, and I mean, it was truly a team effort, offensively, defensively, special teams, all had to come together. And, it's a really, really a gratifying thing to see, because you get down there and you have to fight back there in the fourth quarter and make it happen in all three phases. And our players did just a tremendous job of keeping their heads up, and our coaches, let me say this, that our coaches did a marvelous job as well, and pulled out that victory. And that's, listen, it means something. I mean, this game right here it means something to all of us. I really could care less how they feel about that thing on the other side, but I certainly do appreciate them letting us end this rivalry, so to speak, because it is a joy to be a part of. And I'm just so proud of our team. This season, who knows? I mean, you face so many obstacles. Starting out, you have the COVID, you have all the other stuff that happens during the course of this year. And our men stood strong. They really did a great job. And I'm just so proud of them. So proud to be a part of these guys.
And that was Shawn Elliott discussing the victory for Georgia State. And once, as I mentioned, they have a winning record and are bowl eligible. And that's a really good effort for the Panthers after having a very slow start to the season. And here is Coach Elliott discussing that comeback effort.
Well, you look for growth over the course of the season, and we learned how to finish. You look at us last week, you play a little ho-hum first half and great defensive, but ho-hum offensively with 4 turnovers. But we learned how to finish. And these men, a lot of times, I've said a little bit in the past, we would drag our heads a little bit. We don't drag our heads anymore. Our heads stay stern, and they stay up, and we live to fight every single down. And we really rely on each other to make a play. And that's the thing, that we back one another and we pull for one another, so we know, there's a capability of somebody making a play and pulling it all out, finishing strong. And our team has finished strong.
And finally, linebacker Trajan Stevens-McQueen discussed the victory for the Panthers and what it meant to the team.
Man, it was crazy. Honestly, I've had this feeling since my freshman year, my true freshman year, when we went to Georgia Southern and won on basically the last play, a game-saving tackle inside the 5. And honestly, it's surreal every time. It just feels so great to beat them. It's always great to get a win, but them, of course. But yeah, it was a lot of adversity that we faced this year with COVID and everything. But I was just proud of everybody for actually getting a job done at the end of the day. It's our defense. We love getting game tackles, getting the ball out, being nets around the ball, just trying to get it back to the offense in any way possible. But yeah, they weren't giving it to us. We played a great game defensively, but as far as takeaways, yeah, it didn't. of our defense, but we was glad to get them when they came. It was very timely. We honestly just knew, like, we done actually lost a lot of people, like, to injuries. And the thing is, like, I think one of our Coach Robinson says, like, it's just a matter of, it's going to be next man up. And when your number's called, you're going to have to show up and, handle yours every time that there's an opportunity to make a play. And honestly, it's just everybody's hungry. Like, everybody want to be the one to make the play. Like, and when you get 11 hats that's all flying around that want to be, like, they want the ball to come their way, like, it's a recipe for success. Like, and I see, like, these last few weeks, we definitely was flying around more because we walk around with a swagger now. We didn't have this swagger last year. Like, defense long we get on the field, we know that when we play at our top notch, there's not a lot of people that could really get by us. But we just got to put it all together. And these past few weeks, we definitely have, for the most part. There's a few miscues here and there, but as far as the whole game, yeah, we definitely put it together.
And that's once again was Trajan Stephens-McQueen discussing the victory for the Panthers. The Georgia Bulldogs just dominated their contest against South Carolina, 45-16, and Georgia's offense produced a season high 471 yards, including season high 332 rushing yards. James Cook, the junior tailback, had a career high 104 yards and 2 TDs rushing. Zamir White had 84 rushing yards and 2 TDs in the victory. Efficient night for JT Daniels, had 139 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, passes in the victory. So that's where you just saw that Georgia State ran the ball, dominated the contest. They had that big win over Mississippi State 2 weeks ago in the debut of JT Daniels for the Bulldogs. They faced an inferior South Carolina team who's dealing with interim coach and Bobo, not as much talent as Georgia, and the Bulldogs just ran the ball, controlled it, and dominated from there. They get to face Vanderbilt this upcoming week, and I'm a Vanderbilt Commodore alum. I love my squad, but they've just had an awful year. And Derek Mason, the head coach of the team, he was let go earlier this week. So they're going with the interim coach, just winless campaign. And look, I'll save it for another show. We probably want to do our preview of Georgia and Vanderbilt later on in the week. But my thoughts on having a female kicker at this stage of the year, I mentioned Dallas. I mentioned Denver and the shame of not having a quarterback available for you. Similar deal with Vanderbilt and a kicker. It's a Division I SEC program. There are plenty of people out there that could kick the ball. I would rather you have, and look, every football roster has a guy that's kicked the ball at some point in his career. Whether it's a backup quarterback, a linebacker, everyone's kicked the ball before. The fact that you have to go, and I would not have liked it if it was a male soccer player, but to go to a female player and who's never kicked a football in her life in a competitive competition, and that was a weak kick, by the way. That was a pathetic kick that she did. It was not good at all. And I'm saying, and I don't care if it's a man, woman, whatever, that was not a good kick. But the fact that that was done when your team is winless on the year, your coach is on the hot seat, and it was a straight PR move, I am glad that Vanderbilt fired Mason after that display. Now, I should have fired him maybe 2 years ago. It's just he's just not been a good coach for the team. And look, I know at Vanderbilt, I'm not expecting them to have 10-win seasons and compete to be in the playoffs. Winning records every 2-3 years is all I ask. And he has not been able to do that, to go winless. And yes, I know it's an all-SEC schedule, but to go winless and not look prepared at all in many of those contests, and to get shut out against a Missouri team that you should be at least competitive with, that's inexcusable. So for him to put out, and look, Sarah Fuller, respect to her, I don't blame her at all. She's took the advantage of the opportunity. And if you were in her position, you would take it also. It made national attention. She's getting attention. She got the kick for a college football team. That's a very big moment for her. So I'm not mad at her at all. I don't look at it. And so I won't say anger, my frustration is more towards that coaching staff for not being prepared and not going and having a different route. Look, and that was a question everyone asked, does Vanderbilt have a men's soccer team? They do not have a soccer team, but they have a club soccer team. And once again, you're on a campus. I am sure there's somebody on that campus in one of the sports. I don't care if it's a baseball player, it could be a basketball player. What basketball they're playing right now? And that's a bad example. But maybe a spring sport guy, a swimmer, or well, not swimming either. My point is, there was someone on that campus, especially even on that football team, that's kicked before. Even if you do all swift kicks and you don't go for field goals and you do all 2-point conversions, I would rather you do that and try to and that'd be more competitive. And just say, we're going to do swift kicks, onside kicks, and we're going to go for 2 or go for 4th downs every single possession. I would rather you do, and you can punt the ball. I would rather you do that than to bring in a female kicker who I don't think has any experience kicking, even if she was kicked at the high school level. I'd be cool with that. And because there are a lot of female kickers that kick at the high school level, and that's fine. Because they trained for that. They trained the entire year to kick during a game. That's groovy. I am down with that. But to pull someone and they say, oh, she's a goalie, she does long kicks. No. Complete different game, complete different scenario. That was not a wise move. So when I saw that display and they get shut out by Missouri, it was time for Mason to go. And I'm not saying Mason's a bad guy, you should never coach again or ban him. I'm not saying that. I just think that this position at Vanderbilt for him as a head coach just was not right for him. We'll get to speculation of who they should hire in the future when that time is right. But when I saw that move done on Saturday against Missouri, I did not like it at all. And even my mother, she said, oh, I didn't know that female kicker was from Vanderbilt. Your thoughts? I was like, I did not like it. And I refrained from commentary because I don't like talking negatively or down about women. Not really anybody. But especially women, you have to be very careful as a man like I am, talking about a woman, and because it can come off as very, very negative in a bad way. But I look at it objectively from a strictly sports view. I did not like it, and his firing I thought was justified and deserved for that effort. Whew, all right. I got that off my chest. That was cool. All right. But moving on but the reason I said all that is because Vanderbilt and Georgia do face off this week, and I'll probably have some more thoughts on that as we go through there. But Georgia Tech, very good win by the Yellow Jackets as well. They were able to get a solid victory against Duke. Jordan Mason, big night for him. 105 rushing yards on 21 carries. His first 100-yard game since last year. So that was very important for him. You also have Jeff Sims, quarterback, 3 TD passes, 108 rushing yards as well, and a very good for him. Jahmyr Gibbs had a very long run in the contest, 61 yards in the contest, also 42-yard reception. You're starting to see these young guys develop, and Gibbs, he probably would have gone for a lot more, but he left the game in the second quarter due to the injury. He had 2 rushing TDs, as I mentioned, as well. You're starting to see all of these guys that are going to be back next year, Mason, Gibbs, Sims, and, to bring in some excellent recruits as well. I think Georgia Tech they've had a very interesting schedule as well. Are they better than Notre Dame and Clemson? No, and we saw that in those contests. But then we also saw them lose a very disappointing game at Boston College, not very competitive there, a team that they should be equal to. But when you've seen them play Louisville, we've seen them play Florida State and Duke, teams that are in that same level as the ACC or in the ACC, and they've played very well. And you're starting to see some of the offense very dynamic, and you're seeing some playmakers develop on that side of the ball. So a very good win for the Yellow Jackets. Let's move on to college basketball. That's going on as well right now. I'm very impressed by the Georgia State Panthers so far. Had a 4 overtime win over Georgia Tech last Wednesday night, 123-120. It was a record for both teams. First time that the Panthers were in a 4-overtime game. They had 4 players score 20 or more points, led by Justin Roberts with a career-high 26 points and 9 rebounds. Kane Williams had his first career double-double, 21 points and 12 rebounds. Corey Allen, another upperclassman in the backcourt, he had 22 points and 9 rebounds and played a school record 50 minutes in that contest. That's a very big win for Georgia State. Here is Rob Lanier on that Georgia Tech win.
I'm really proud of our group. Like we talked about the other day, we got a long way to go, unique circumstances. Didn't feel like we were in great shape coming into this game, but we were determined that we were going to play our style and see if we could wear them down, and they were up to the task. We turned it over too much. We gave up too many offensive rebounds, and we fouled a lot. But we showed a lot of heart, a lot of resilience, and a great deal of togetherness. And so it's a good sign for us that we've got a chance to have a really good team. So I'm really proud of the group tonight. What I talk to our team about all the time is that every team has a 1-year lifespan. Even if you have the same roster, you never have the same team twice. The personnel changes some. The goals of the individuals on the team changes from year to year. So when you have a team together, you only have them for that season. Your group is always going to change and evolve, and guys' roles and everything's going to change. So we'll compare some things, but this is a different team in a different time. And this team has a journey of its own. And when this year is over, next year's team, no matter who we have back, will be a different group and a different journey, and they all represent the program. And you hope that each team you have is a good representative of the program you're trying to build. So I think this team's first game together was a success. Even if we didn't come out on top, I would have been proud of these guys, but it obviously feels better when you do come out on top.
And here's Lanier discussing the team playing in a multiple overtime contest.
During the timeouts, obviously, we're talking about getting stops. That's really critical in rebounding the basketball. We didn't do a great job. But we also talked a lot during the game about just loving the opportunity, just loving what was going on and enjoying every minute of it, and continuing to be tough and sticking together. And that's what I wanted to see. I didn't feel like last year's team ever was really a together group. I thought we were competitive. I thought we had a good group of talent, but I don't think we were together. And I do believe this team has a chance to be together. We're not there yet, but I do think we have better ingredients to be a really good team. And I thought tonight was a good example of the possibilities for this group, even though our execution and we made a ton of mistakes, but we do have guys that are really playing for one another. I think that was key to the game. Yeah, I thought the effort on defense was better sometimes than the execution, but DeVoe and Alvarado are really tough matchups, and Wright is a heck of a player, so that had a lot to do with it. But you're right, Marcel. We sustained a level of effort and intensity, even though we didn't always make the play. So that is something that we always say: who's going to play the hardest, the longest? That's our thing. Who's going to play the hardest for the longest period of time? They were saying it in the timeout, in the third and fourth overtime. Who's going to play the hardest, the longest? And tonight, we made just enough plays to get it done.
All right, and that was Rob Lanier, head coach of the team, discussing the win over Georgia Tech. 2 days later, the Panthers were able to turn around and defeat Toccoa Falls at home in a contest. I asked Coach Lanier about the win and just what he saw from the squad.
We spent the last couple of days trying to get these guys into a mind frame of coming off a great victory on Wednesday and trying to turn the page, and we were really looking to see if these guys would approach today with a level of maturity play the game the right way and play together and play with a level of intensity. And I was proud of the guys. It felt like that they had the right approach to the game, and we got a chance to. Even though we played everybody on Wednesday, it was another chance for the younger guys to get some experience and to play some different guys and look at some different rotations. And but all in all, I was proud of the fact that the guys they came out, they played hard, they played together, they took the game seriously, and I feel like we got better today. That was the challenge, and you know, there's a lot of correctable things that happen like in any game, but I thought we got better today, guys, because I do think we have a little bit more maturity this year in terms of how mentally how we approach days where we're not doing anything physically. You know, sometimes you have a group when they have a day off physically, they can't tune in mentally. And I thought yesterday they were all tuned in. They could see the things that we need to get better at. It was apparent on video. And then today we were able to walk through some things that we wanted to get better at. And I thought we did a good job.
All right, so Georgia State, their next contest is going to be Friday against Charlotte. Continue to check the site. Hopefully we'll get some interviews with some players and coaches before that game takes place. Georgia Tech in that loss had a double-double from Moses Wright, had 31 points and 20 rebounds in that contest. Jose Alvarado had 29 points and 10 rebounds, played 58 minutes. And Michael DeVoe also had a double-double with 24 points and 12 rebounds. Despite all of that, they lost that 4 overtime contest to the Panthers. So here is Josh Pastner discussing the defeat.
Oh, it was just it was, 4 overtime game. Both teams just played their tails off. Both teams competed. Got to give Coach Lanier and Georgia State tons of credit. And we had some chances late. We crawled our way back, clawed our way back. We got down, we came back. We just could never put them away. It was almost like the basketball gods, said, okay, Georgia State's winning this game. I mean, we just had some chances, obviously missed a lot of free throws. The kid, banks one in, and we had some costly turnovers. And so I'm proud of our guys on how hard they competed. They played their tails off. We'll get better. It's a long season. We got to clean some things up. We got to, this is our first time since we've played since March, and we'll make the adjustments and strategic, changes that we'll need to make in order for us to continue to get better and continue to move forward. We've been a defensive-oriented team, and two things. Our transition defense was very, very poor today, very, very poor. And then secondly, as I've said, you could see missing James Banks and or Ben Lammers today with the shot blocking. And that's where we missed that. So we'll have to get better, especially in transition defense, because we don't have that elite shot blocker behind us right now. And so I was not happy with our transition defense. But I want to be very clear that the guys played their tails off, for the most part. And it was a really both teams played well it was some sloppiness by both teams, but it was a high level, entertaining game. And we'll have to get better. And transition defense is one of them, Kelly. That's an area that we'll have to improve on.
Yeah, and tough breaks for Georgia Tech, and they lost earlier this week as well to Mercer. So they're 0-2 on the season. Very slow start for Georgia Tech. So they need to turn things around very quickly. But we'll see what happens with them. And that's concludes today's show. Thanks for listening to our broadcast. As always, follow everything that we're doing on the sportsinquirer.net. Go to our Twitter pages and Instagram under Sports Inquirer. That's all one word. Go to our Facebook pages, either The Sports Inquirer or Sports Inquirer. And then finally, subscribe to us or follow our podcast on YouTube, SoundCloud. Where else are we at? Google Podcasts, iTunes, and just search for us, and you'll see everything that we're doing. Until next time, good fight, good night, be safe.